Westminster correspondent Kathyrn Samson joins us. Kathyrn, what's been said?
Well, look, this is a huge announcement today. It is huge in terms of the relationship between the UK and Scottish governments. Now, we have been told all day that Alister Jack, the Scottish Secretary, has been the ultimate decision maker in all this and that he was considering legal advice over the weekend. Well, he's considered that advice in the last hour. He released a statement confirming that he is going ahead to try and block this gender reform legislation that was, of course, only passed by the Scottish Parliament by a majority of MSPs in Holyrood just before Christmas. Now, in this statement from the Scottish Secretary, Alister Jack, he confirms the mechanism by which he plans to do this. It's called Section 35 of the Scotland Act. Now, that is something that hasn't been used in the full 25 years of devolution of the Scottish Parliament, but he plans to use it. He says, after thorough and careful consideration of all the relevant legislation, he thinks that this will have an adverse impact on the operation of what he calls Great Britain-wide equalities legislation. Now, that's because, of course, you know, this act doesn't apply in England and Wales, but he's saying it will have an impact on the rest of the UK. He's saying here, transgender people who are going through the process to change their legal sex deserve respect, support and understanding. And his decision today, he's stressing, is about the consequences for UK-wide equalities, protections and other reserved matters. And he says he has not taken this decision lightly. In fact, you may remember as soon as that bill was passed in Holyrood, he was very quick to say he was starting to consider this process. Now, this is likely to prompt a furious response from Nicola Sturgeon, from the Scottish Government. We actually heard from the First Minister earlier today at a press conference, and here's, she was obviously talking ahead of this decision, but here's what the tone of her argument was about why she feels the UK government doesn't have the right to try and block this.
There are no grounds to challenge this legislation. It is within the competence of the Scottish Parliament. It doesn't affect the operation of the Equality Act, and it was passed by an overwhelming majority of the Scottish Parliament after very lengthy and very intense scrutiny by MSPs of all parties represented in the Parliament. So if there is a decision to challenge, then in my view it will be quite simply a political decision.
Now, that was the First Minister speaking earlier. I expect we will hear more from her on this subject tonight and, of course, into tomorrow. Now, there will be some campaigners who may welcome this move by Alister Jack to attempt to block this legislation, but there will be many others and some in the trans community who certainly will not. Here's someone we spoke to earlier.
5 parties committed to reforming the Gender Recognition Act, including the Conservative Party. So now, we've campaigned for a long time. The bill finally passed in December, and that was a really positive moment for trans people. And I am really saddened that is being undermined by a Conservative government who are making it really clear that they don't care about Scottish democracy and they don't care about trans people.
So an almighty row is certainly coming, and as I say, we're going to hear more on this from the Scottish Secretary, Alister Jack, in the House of Commons chamber tomorrow.